All right, so you want to be a police officer. You have a pretty good idea of what it's going to take to be a police officer, but you want someone inside the job to kind of grind things down and tell you what you can expect from our perspective. My name is Aram Cho, and for the past 21 years, I've been a police officer in Southern California. I'm actually a detective sergeant, but in the past, I've been a background investigator, so I think I can give you some pretty good insight as to what agencies are looking for today. All right, first things first, it's professionalism. I'm not even talking about your physical agility test or your written test, your background process, or the academy. That's all going to be later. I'll explain that in depth in future videos. But for now, I want to tell you what's going to get your foot in the door. That's your first impression. Believe it or not, your application is your first impression. If you're going to turn in something that's got coffee stains or wrinkles or something like that, or it's got scribbles on it, it's going to be a reflection of who you are. So if you're applying to an agency that requires you to turn in an application, they want to see it professional. If that means having to do multiple drafts prior to submitting a final draft, that's what you're going to have to do. Believe it or not, this part is difficult for a lot of applicants. Some people don't want to go through the legwork to get all the information that's required to do a thorough application. So, what's required? This is probably stuff that you need to gather before you actually sit down and fill out the application. First things first, transcripts. We're going to ask you for your education history because in most states, there's a minimum education required. And to prove that, you have to submit your transcripts. Transcripts take a while. If you're lucky enough to have only gone to one high school or one college, then that's going to be pretty easy. And these days, you can apply online. But you want to make sure you do that because it does take some time for the administrators of these schools to research, get your transcripts, and mail them out to you. These have to be certified transcripts. So make sure you ask for certified transcripts. Secondly, they're going to ask for job history. So if you are not that experienced, that's fine. Just to make sure you have all the information necessary. We want to know where and when you worked and who your direct supervisors are. We may even ask for peer references to see how you worked as a team. So let's just say you were a server at, I don't know, Denny's restaurant. We want to know which Denny's you worked at. We want to know who your boss was. And maybe because we may ask, find out from one of your peer workers if they would be okay being a reference on your application. Relationship history. We want to know what kind of relationships you've been in. If you've ever been married before, even if you haven't been married, we want to know if you've had a girlfriend or a boyfriend. So it's important that you reach out to them and kind of give them the heads up that you're applying to be a police officer. They do a thorough background, and because of that, they're going to want to contact him or her to ask them some relationship and behavioral type questions that they'd have to answer honestly. So I know what you're thinking. Well, I had a really bad relationship with so and so. Maybe I want to omit that information from my application. That's a bad idea because it's going to come up in your background. Believe it or not, background investigators have access to a lot of resources. So they're going to know, based on references, based on electronic search history, that you may have omitted a relationship that might be pertinent to your background investigation. But that's okay. I've seen people go in and put references down from bad relationships, and all you have to do is explain to them that this was a bad breakup. He or she was scorned and may not say some positive things. It's all expected. We're expecting that. So be honest. Actually, be honest throughout your whole career, but you don't want to start off your career on the wrong foot. Your application sticks with you throughout your entire career. So let's just say something comes up 10 or 15 years down the line, then you were dishonest on your application, it can get you fired. A lot of things can get you fired, but dishonesty is one of the primary things that will get you fired on the job. So don't start your career off that way. All right, so we covered transcripts, job history, relationship history, financial history. Why is that important? Well, we want to know that you're a good steward of your finances, that you're living within your means. Police officers don't make a lot of money. In some cases, you do after you promote and work overtime. But as you're starting out, we want to know that you're going to be responsible financially. Why is that important? Because it's a testament to who you are as an individual. We want to know that you're not living way beyond your means, that your credit cards aren't totally racked up, that you don't have outstanding debt. But, it's all commensurate to who you are. If you're a 21-year-old applicant, but you've got $30,000 in school debt, that's completely different, right? But what if you're $30,000 in credit card debt and you still live with mom and you drive a really expensive car? Well, that's not really responsible. So your financial responsibility could be a reflection on who you are. It's not the end-all be-all, but it is one of the parameters in which background investigators use to see how sound you are as an individual. All right, criminal history. Why is that important? Well, there are certain crimes that will disqualify you from being a police officer, most felonies, as a matter of fact, and some misdemeanors, including domestic violence. We want our police officers to have life experience. Don't get me wrong. We want people that are not necessarily squeaky clean to the point where they don't have any street smarts, but we want people that have had life experience. And sometimes certain life experiences may land you in trouble, whether that's a ticket or maybe a misdemeanor crime that's not considered disqualifiable. But we want to know. Be upfront because your criminal history sticks with you. I don't care if it's expunged. We have sources and databases that will tell us if you've ever had negative contact with police. And then drug use. Drug use is important. When I was starting, marijuana was acceptable. It was considered an acceptable experimental drug. But these days, because there's a lot more drugs out there like ecstasy and methamphetamines, we're seeing a lot of them. So it's not a disqualifier necessarily based on state requirements, but it could be a disqualifier at the particular agency that you're applying to. So it's important that you are upfront. Maybe the circumstances in which you encountered these drugs were something that happened because you were pressured into it, you were young and impressionable, and you tried it, you didn't like it, and you never did it again. Well, those are all things that will come up on your background and could be very well explainable. There are terms to which we find certain drug use acceptable. So if you've done certain drugs within the last 12 months, it may be a disqualifier. But if it's been beyond 12 months, then that might be acceptable. There may not be outright disqualifiers, but it will put, maybe a negative check mark on your list when it comes to comparing you to another person, another applicant. So, but it's in any way, you don't want to fill your application out in such a way that makes you look completely favorable by omitting things. You want to be completely transparent and have everything in there, because that application not only gets your foot in the door, but that's the application that your background investigator will use to go through your background. All right, I hope that information gets your foot in the door. It's helpful. It solidifies your understanding of what it takes to get your application noticed. And I hope it gives you a good understanding of how important it is throughout your background process. Honesty from the very beginning is going to be very good for you. All right. Well, I hope that's been informative. I'm going to do some other videos about what you can expect after the application. So you've got to like, share, and subscribe this video so that when those videos come out, you'll know. All right, my name is Aram Cho. You can DM me on Instagram and Facebook at 911strong, or you can email me at aram@911strong.com if you have any questions that I may not see in the comments. I'll be happy to answer those there. Take care. God bless.